They came back, they fought their ass off, and they were led by a point guard who is an awesome, awesome basketball player and is the unquestioned leader of this basketball team. So I think we all got more than we ever expected out of Jalen Brunson, and now we expect even more from him. That's how great he was.
Yep.
And I think it certainly hurt that quickly got hurt because maybe somewhere along the line, 5 to 10 minutes, getting a little bit of a rest in a game would have made him even more, I think, impactful late in games as opposed to a turnover here or a turnover there, which is going to happen. I tell people all the time, like, playing point guard in the NFL is literally like playing quarterback in the NFL. In the NBA is like playing quarterback in the NFL, meaning that, when you have the ball in your hand, you're making a million decisions. And he has to play defense, quarterbacks don't. But I have to say, everything that he did in pretty much almost every single game this year, all the way until the final game against Miami, he was front and center. I think he made, if you count the amount of bad games that he had, it might have been 5 overall for the entire season plus the playoffs.
Yeah, can't say enough great things about him. We know he's a part of the solution, not a part of the problem, and he's going to be here, and that's great. Culture changer, if you will.
He is 100%, and he is, and at his size and the toughness that he displays, it's nothing short of just absolutely everything you want from a point guard in the NBA. So they finally have gotten that right. Mm-hmm. Finally. And I said after the game on Friday night, I said, hey, keep him, keep Hartenstein, and keep Hart. Everybody else on the block, if you can get something for somebody you think is going to change the dynamic of this team and bring other guys in here that are going to play defense, that are going to be able to, hit big shots. I mean, I think you have to go back to your analytics board and start looking at people who hit shots because the Knicks and, their best offensive players came up small. When you think about R.J. Barrett and you think about Julius Randle. Now, I've been an R.J. Barrett supporter. If we can keep him, we keep him. If not, and you got somebody else in here and he had to be a part of a trade, I would get that. I would totally understand that at this point. But the Julius Randle thing, I've been on that for 2 years.
Yeah, and this is the prevailing thought coming out of this series. You see the videos of the fans leaving or being in the streets after the Game 6, the Knicks fans, and they crossed out Julius Randle's face on a poster, and you heard them out there going, trade Julius Randle and chanting that. Now everybody, I'm sure we're going to get a ton of calls today, and we have said it for a while. So that's now the consensus, it feels like, amongst Knicks fans that they don't want to see Julius Randle on this team next year. I'm just not so sure that the Knicks look at it that way.
Well, the Knicks better look at it that way.
I know they better, but it's not a given. I'm telling you, we were talking. Remember the year he had last year? How bad that was? And we said there's no way that this team can go forward with him. And then he was down there the next 2 days later recruiting Jalen Brunson. That was off a miserable year in which they didn't even make the playoffs. This year, they go to the second round of the postseason, and yes, he has a not-so-good playoffs, but he's a third-team All-NBA guy.
Which is a joke.
He was their leading scorer. He was an All-Star.
It's a joke.
They have protected him throughout this entire Tom Thibodeau regime, and I'm telling you, it's not a given that they're going to look to move him.
I'm telling you, the fans have finally turned. I mean, I turned 2 years ago, but the other thing, too, is I want to support them when they're winning. I want them to do well. I don't want him to blow up in the middle of a game. I don't want him to have a dour personality if things aren't going his way. I told you, he's way too much. He's way too inconsistent when it comes to his personality on the basketball court.
Right.
I mean, this is going on for years.
Yeah.
I mean, I've sat here for 2 years and I've said, the numbers, fine. The overall personality, the attitude is not. It's not a winning attitude. It's not. I know that they've won games. I sit here and I want to bat myself over the head with the idiot stick because I know he averages a double-double. I know he's third at All-NBA. But if you watch his game, and then you watch his personality traits, and just the mood swings are so incredible that everybody around him it's got to be like walking on eggshells.
Yeah, I would agree that that's really the thing that has remained constant. His play is up and down, but the thing that has remained constant is the fact that you can't really figure the guy out. And he seems to be someone who lets the outside stuff and the emotions of the game sort of affect him in a negative way. I know the situations are totally different, so don't think that I'm trying to compare the situations on the field. But I almost feel like, you know how you've been fighting off Jets fans for the longest time that call up and say, Zach Wilson shouldn't be a part of the future. And you keep saying, I'm telling you, whether you agree with it or not, he's going to be here and they want him to be part of the future. That's my fear with the Knicks, is that we're all saying he's got to go, but the Knicks look at him differently than we look at him.
Yeah, you're right. So because the Jets look at Zach Wilson differently than the Jet fan looks at
Yes.
Zach Wilson because of where Zach Wilson was drafted. And, it's kind of interesting you brought up his name. I went down the rabbit hole on Saturday looking at different Zach Wilson tapes and stuff and plays and things. And really, the biggest thing for him, as I kind of get into him just for a minute, is that he just kept leaving the pocket. Like, he just would leave the pocket for no reason. Like, this is not Utah. We're not playing UCLA, and we're not running around, and we're trying to make plays down the field. You have to stand in the pocket. And I think one of the things that the Jets hope is that he's going to watch Aaron Rodgers maneuver the pocket the way the pocket's supposed to be maneuvered by a Hall of Fame player. So that's why the Jets are keeping him here, hoping that he learns something from one of the greatest of his era. Now, back to Julius Randle. Julius Randle's been here longer. Julius Randle's older. I know that Tom Thibodeau said after the game, he's still in his prime. Well, now's the best time to trade him because this can't go on anymore. This fluctuation in attitude I don't know what it is. I really don't. I almost see like a bipolar player on the basketball court. Like, I see somebody, if he gets off to a good start, everybody's high-fiving, everybody's great, lots of smiles. But when then watch the defensive zone, and you watch some of these plays that people put out there, and they show you his lack of effort and intensity on the defense, and then you see the yelling at the referees, you're yelling at your teammates, you're slamming the ball down. You want the ball even though you're in the midst of like a horrendous shooting game. And it almost seems like every shot that you take is a shot that is either off balance or you're trying to force the issue.
Yeah.
We all see it. Nobody's saying that he's a bad basketball player.
You're just not going to win a championship with him.
He's just not a winning basketball player under this current set of circumstances here in New York, especially now that you finally have a legit all-star point guard. That's the guy who should have been making all NBA.
Oh, of course, yeah. And I don't know. And Eric Spoelstra said it after Game 6, too. He goes, I don't know how that guy isn't on every single of the top lists in the NBA. It's amazing to me that he's not. But, yeah, I just wonder, too, because part of me is like, all the things we've said about Julius Randle, is another team interested in that? Do they want that guy? And then I'll go, wait, well, someone wanted Kyrie Irving still, so there's got to be someone who wants Julius Randle. And his contract isn't that prohibitive when it comes to looking at dealing him. I don't know if Leon Rose and his team of 1 million people and Tom Thibodeau are looking at Julius Randle as someone that they have to get rid of and say, we're not going to win with this guy. I think they may look at him and saying, man, that's a lot of production to be able to replicate and have to fill if he's off the court. And he's been one of the centerpieces of this team when they've made the playoffs 2 out of the last 3 years in an organization that has been a joke for the better part of 2 decades. That's the way they may look at him.
Yeah, but listen.
And if he comes back, he's going to be exactly the same player as we've seen, and he's going to hold him back from taking the next step, and we know it.
I know one thing, that the front office of the Knicks, it may not be the GM, it may not be the president, but the owner. The owner pays attention. The owner pays attention to media, which sometimes is a good thing, and sometimes it's a bad thing.
Sure.
In this case, I think it would be a good thing for the league, and for the team, to try to move Julius, to just try to move him out of here and try to settle things down. And I don't know who the replacement is. I'm not really sure who would be available. I saw a number of names out there of players that could be disgruntled, that may want to come to New York. New York has all the assets in the world. And what they have is they have a point guard that they found out is pretty damn good, man. And he's probably got, 4 more years at this, extremely high level where he is just going to be fearless. And I think that, right now is the moment in time where the Knicks have got to make a move. They have got to make a major move. They can't just sit still.
It's not all up to them, though. It's really not. as you saw, there was a superstar that was available that wanted to play here in Donovan Mitchell, and they wanted him desperately and offered what was more than fair in the deal, and Danny Ainge didn't want to deal him to the Knicks. So there's all sorts of hurdles. First, you have to have a guy who wants out of a situation. Then you have to have an organization who is agreeing to get him out of that situation. Then you've got to have the assets and everything in return that organization has, and the Knicks should be able to meet that.
I would say Minnesota and Phoenix are two places that I'm looking at right now, knowing that I have disgruntled somewhat stars there in those places.
Well, you're talking about Karl Anthony Towns in Minnesota? I don't know, man.
But yeah, I don't have the. I'm just giving you an example.
I know, but I'm saying
teams that I would look at and say, okay, nobody at Sacramento's disgruntled. The Lakers are fine. Maybe the Clippers could have a disgruntled player here or there. I'm thinking of a Western Conference team, by the way. I'm also thinking that Minnesota's got some disgruntled players. I think Phoenix, they just fired Monty Williams. I think there's a lot of stuff going on there with that new owner. And you just never know which kind of player. Like, would DeAndre Ayton float your boat for the Knicks?
I mean,
in replace of Julius Randle.
I mean, I would imagine, an upgrade from the stuff we have seen, maybe not from a scoring standpoint, but the fact that maybe you put him in the right place, he's able to thrive.
But that's you get rid of Mitchell Robinson. I mean, the point being is that you have to, and every team in every sport is doing this, especially now that you're into, the finals, the conference finals in both the NHL and the NBA right now. All the teams that are sitting on the side, the Rangers right now, they got to figure out a coach. Do they make a big trade? Do they go after somebody? And I just throw this out there because this would be a major trade. So if you're a hockey fan and you wanted to watch hockey last night, you had to stay up late at night and you had to watch it. The best player in the sport is playing in a freaking game, and the NHL has it on at 10 o'clock at night in Eastern Conference time. And that best player in that sport lost out again. Connor McDavid got knocked out. They get knocked out by Vegas. And you say to yourself, okay, are they going to continue, scoring a lot of goals but never winning? Or would they be willing to trade, let's say, a Leon Draisaitl to somebody for younger assets, defensive players, that sort of thing? Would that ever come across? And he only has 2 years left on his contract. So that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. Like Edmonton, New York, all right, they got all these great guys, these great players. They make the playoffs, but how far can they go with them?
Yeah, and there's certain guys that, of course, move the needle and change things. You talked about the Florida Panthers and Kachuk and how he comes in and changes that whole situation for them. And in the NBA, there's a handful of those guys.
Jalen Brunson changed it here.
He did, but I'm talking about now the next step. Jalen Brunson, even as great as he wasn't able to get past an 8 seed in the second round of the playoffs because he's held back by certain insufficiencies on this roster. So I'm talking about you want to be able to go to the finals. You want to be able to bring a championship here for the first time in 1,000 years, then you're going to need Giannis. You're going to need Luka Doncic. You're going to need Devin Booker. You're going to need one of those guys.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Devin Booker and Kevin Durant didn't make it.
Yeah, I know.
James Harden and Joel Embiid and Tobias Harris didn't make it.
I know, and obviously these are situations that you need to have happen if those guys are going to become available, because the successful teams aren't going to be trading away those superstars. So, it's a catch-22 in a way, but you try to get them on the right team. Next thing you know, it may work, especially if you got Jalen Brunson there.
I do have to give you the tip of the cap. You've been killing this Harden for years.
Oh, yeah. Well,
and it happened again.
Yeah, well, he doesn't. I told you when they were up 3-2, this was the time that he was going to decide he didn't want to play basketball anymore, because he's like, wait, I got to keep playing? Are you kidding me? If we win this series, I got to keep playing? No way. So he was done. He was out of it. I really, truly believe that it does not matter to him that they lost that game last night. I 100% believe that. I think part of him is happier that they did and they could move on to the postseason. And I'm not saying he tries to go out there and lose. I think that when he's out there and things aren't going his way, he decides I can either grind through this or I can coast into an offseason that sounds a hell of a lot better than playing a Miami Heat team in the next round. And if we win that, I got to play another team. And he just doesn't care. So, the more surprising thing was Embiid's play and some of the issues that he had. And then, after the game and some of the things he was saying that was, just a little bit different than what you'd expect from an MVP and a leader there. But
I
yeah,
just think that
he
was more concerned about the MVP than he was about winning a championship.
This is what it appears to be. I mean, he was crying when he won the MVP. It seemed like that was very, very important to him. But yeah, I mean, back to the disgruntled guys and stuff like that. I mean, they have to, Donovan. The reason why Donovan Mitchell was such the perfect guy, and I hate going back to it, but he wasn't really a disgruntled guy. He'd signed a deal, and it was just that Danny Ainge went in there and was like, this thing isn't working. We got to get rid of these guys, and we got to start over. But generally, when one of these guys shakes loose, it's because there's issues where he is.
Did you see what you just said? Danny Ainge recognized that it wasn't going to work with these guys, so we have to start over.
Yeah.
Can somebody in the Knicks front office realize that Julius Randle is more of an anchor on this team than he is, an engine?
Yeah, that's a great question, and hopefully they do, because but we've seen teams in this area. We scream and yell about certain guys, and then, like the Yankees, they bring them back. Yeah, Josh Donaldson's back. Aaron Hicks is back. Gary Sanchez is back. All these guys, they're all back. Oh, we're all back for another run. Let's go. Let's go at it one more time. And that's my fear with the Knicks and Julius Randle.
Thanks so much for watching the video.
Please like and subscribe.
And don't forget to hit the bell so you're notified when we're dropping new content.